I started out memorizing quotes. Then I got a coach. Then I started listening to other motivational speakers. Then I started going to seminars and workshops. Then I started speaking on a volunteer basis because I thought it was my calling. A calling is something that you're made for. So a calling is something that you love so much you do it for nothing, but you do it so well that people will pay you to do it. This is the time if you want to be on top of your game. Now listen, this is not for everybody. The masses will use their time being a spectator. We have been conditioned and programmed to be spectators, to watch people live their dreams. You want to use your time living the kind of life that people watch you. Hello? That people pay money to see you. People pay money to buy your books. People pay money to go to your seminars or your workshops, or to purchase your art, or to hear your lecture on a particular subject area. You want to use your time perfecting your skill and your passion to stand out as an expert. Use your time to operate from that consciousness of Henry David Thoreau, who said, "Do not go where the path may lead, go where there is no path and leave a trail." I talked to a friend of mine yesterday that has a new invention. I said, "Whoa." I said, "How long you been working on this?" "Well, some time, but I finally got it together." I said, "Oh, I'm so proud of you." Because if you look around, people are coming up with new ideas. And here's something. If you do this, if you maximize your time, if you just decide, I'm going to find something that I would enjoy doing, and then I'm going to carve out the time and have a schedule that I'm working on it every day. Listen to me, nobody can touch you. I was just going through the internet the other day. It's amazing the magnitude of craziness that's out there. This computer, the video, you can use it to start a global business, to earn millions of dollars, to touch millions of people. And it's amazing the time and the effort that people put in to produce stuff that's nonsense. It's amazing. There's no competition. There's no excuse today for not becoming successful. Even if you've just lost your job, even if you're going through foreclosure and eviction, you can come back. You have no competition because the majority of the people throw their time away and they have nothing to show for it. I remember when I was in Miami and I came down and I just finished doing one of the television shows that I'd been paid $5 million for. And I saw a friend of mine named Lefty that we used to shoot pool together on 3rd Avenue and 12th Street across from Douglas Elementary School, Sam's pool room. And I said, "Look, Lefty, I'm about to go back to Columbus, Ohio." He said, "Oh, great, man." He said, "I'll be right here when you come back," holding down the corner. He was holding down the corner. This guy that I used to look up to, he was a very talented and gifted basketball player. He was holding down the corner, have about 12 teeth in his mouth, holding down the corner. Have you seen people who just, their lives are just stopped? They're not working and producing. "Herein my Father glorified, that ye bear much fruit." We were put here to bear some fruit? No. Much fruit. To be productive, to make an impact, to create a presence. That's why we're here. To work, to leave our mark. And so do an evaluation of yourself. Ask yourself, if you look at 24 hours, how much time do you spend developing your mind? How much time do you spend learning a new skill? The economy has changed. 47 million jobs will be lost to artificial intelligence. Majority of money being made on the planet is being made virtually at home on a computer. The game has changed. The day where you can go to college and graduate and have thousands of dollars of debt and be able to get a job working for 40 years and retire in 40 years on 40%, which wasn't enough in the first place, that day is gone. And I'm encouraging you, get around people who are using their time productively, because people rub off on you. I remember Steve Skilkin. He's out of Columbus, Ohio. He really inspired me to earn my first million. He's a very good friend of mine. And said, hey, Boo and I, we're ready to watch the Baltimore Colts and Johnny Unitas. He said, I can't come Sunday afternoon. And I said, why? He said, I'm at the office. I'm working. I said, you the boss, man. Have your staff do the work on Monday morning. He said, I got a goal of earning my first million by myself and not with my father's money. Now, I was on the east side of Columbus, Ohio, living in what I would call a human doghouse. That's an apartment that does not have a back door. And Steve lived in Bexley in a home that's valued at probably $7 or $8 million. I'm getting all ready, me and Boo, Calvin and Patrick, let's sit in front of the television, watch Johnny Unitas and the Baltimore Colts live their dreams. And Steve, whose father, Joseph Skilkin, built shopping malls all across the United States. Steve, whose father left him and lent his sister millions of dollars, was at work on a Sunday afternoon. And I sat there for a minute, and I got up and I walked out. Boo said, aren't you going to watch the game? I said, no. I just couldn't do it. I could not do it. And I focused my energy. I said, wait a minute, he's already a millionaire. He inherited millions of dollars, but he had this sense of himself that he didn't want to capitalize on what his father generated. He wanted to be able to outdo his father. See, this is the first generation that will not outdo their parents. What I've accomplished, what I've done, based upon what Mamie Brown put in me, my mother, I went beyond her. She had a 3rd grade education. I had a 12th grade. I was in the 12th grade, graduated from Booker T. Washington High School in special education. But because of what she put in me, I went far and touched millions of people's lives around the world because of how I used my time. She worked in a cafeteria. She worked for wealthy families. And there's nothing wrong with that. But our children are to go beyond us. I was with a friend and he called his son and wanted to borrow some money for gas. I didn't say anything, none of my business. My mother used to have a sign on her mirror, oh Lord, help me keep my nose out of other people's business. Miles Monroe, he said, when you know your purpose, that narrows how you use your time. How you use your time. How are you using your time? You have something special. You have greatness in you. You have the ability to do more than you can ever begin to imagine. I know you've done some things that you're proud of, but I can tell you, based upon my own experience, if you're willing to put in the time with a coach, that's me up in here. If you're willing to put in the time to learn how you can use your voice, to learn how you can use your story. And the time is now. Don't put it off. Don't put it off. No, don't take it for granted. You've got more in you. Be willing to learn something new. Be willing to put in the time and the effort to acquire new skills so that you'll be in charge of your financial future. Things about the bottom is about to fall out in this economy. I know a thing or two. I'm a former elected official. I know the signs. And so the people that are going to come out on top are the people that will put in the time and effort to learn something new, to get the coaching that they need to get, to save them time. You always want to do things that can save you time. From somebody who's been there, done that, and bought the t-shirt. If that's who you are, if you want to save some time learning how you can use your story and your knowledge and take advantage of this attention economy, if you're serious, I only want to work with people that are serious, that are hungry, because I was hungry. I'm just not mentally fit to work for somebody for the rest of my life. That's just not me. I don't like going into an office and being all cooped up. No, seeing people I don't want to see every day. No. You are here to live life on your terms. You've been given authority and dominion over everything on the face of the earth. You're made in the likeness and image of God. If you believe that, then live like that. Live from a place of power. Because that's who you are. You got it like that. I'll teach you. If you have goals and dreams, I'm putting together a community of people of collaborative, achievement-driven, supportive relationships. Every day we'll be talking about how you can develop your mind. Every day we're talking about how you can learn a new skill that will put you outside of the realm of a job, the journey of the broke. Every day. When you're in a community of collaborative, achievement-driven, supportive relationships, and I'm coaching you, eye has not seen, ear has not heard, nor is it in the heart of mankind what God has in store for you. When you are willing to open your mind to new possibilities, upgrade your skill set, and get around the right people. I can't tell you the number of intelligent, gifted people who got it wrong, who got it wrong. They got around the wrong people, and that short-circuited their potential.
You can either live your dreams or live your fears. And I think the majority of people actually are not living their dreams, but are living their fears. So I want to ask you a question. What are your fears? What are you afraid of? What are you scared of? Because we all have fears, don't we? We all have something that's blocking us, that's holding us back. And as we begin to look at life, what we realize is that the reason that most people are not living out their true potential, are not doing all of the things that they would really like to do, is because of fear. Some people call fear false evidence or expectations appearing real. I'm reminded of the story of a guy that was living in an area where he had some new neighbors, and these neighbors had a bulldog. And when he came home every day, this bulldog used to chase him about a half a block from his house. Every day, he would have to streak home. I mean, he would just run. This bulldog would be right on his heels. And so he just got tired of that, because he would go home and about a half a block away from home, he would look around for this bulldog and he wouldn't see him. And he would go walking casually along, and this bulldog come out of nowhere, whoa, 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 and start chasing him, and he'd run home. So this one day, he just got tired. And so when the bulldog was running after him, he started running. He saw a rock, and he stopped to pick it up to throw at the bulldog. And when the bulldog got up on him, he started barking. He realized the bulldog didn't have any teeth in his mouth. Then he started chasing the bulldog. If you don't get on away from it, because the most the bulldog could have done is gum, you know. And so, you know what? Most people go through life running scared. Running scared from things that have no teeth in them, because they're false expectations appearing real. That, see, we're brilliant enough to scare ourselves to death. Do you realize that? And there are some people actually who get a kick out of scaring themselves to death. I remember the last frightening movie I saw. It was The Exorcist. I will never forget. I was so frightened when I came home. I'll never forget. I drove in the driveway, and I had already called my former wife and said, listen, turn the lights on. I was coming in the driveway, and I was getting out of the car, and all of a sudden I couldn't get out. I started blowing my horn. I said, Madeline, they got me, they got me. She came to the kitchen with and said, take your seatbelt loose, fool. I said, oh, okay. I was frightened out of my wits. But there are a lot of people who they get off on that. They love it. I'm a person, my brother is a paratrooper. My twin brother, he's in the military, career man. I would love to jump out of an airplane to parachute. I'm scared, though. I mean, I really admire my brother for that. I would really love to be macho man like that. What are the things that you fear that's been keeping you from living your dream? That's been keeping you from doing some things that you would like to do? Just think about those things. And how do we begin to handle that? Abraham Maslow said that the life is about growth. And he said, you can either go back to your comfort zone, and there you won't find any growth, or you must be willing to go forward and face your fears again and again and again, because you're never going to have a fear-free existence. I mean, some fear is acceptable and legitimate. There are some things that you really should be afraid of. Now, you shouldn't allow it to immobilize you. You acknowledge it, you take it into account, and you carry yourself accordingly. There are times that we should proceed with caution, but it's the difference between being stopped by fear. It's the difference between having a fear and the fear having you. So what do? One, acknowledge it, and knowing that it's okay. Don't condemn yourself for being afraid. It's perfectly fine to have some fears. You acknowledge your fears, you embrace those fears, and then you move on. You act on whatever it is that you fear. Because once you embrace it, see, what you resist will persist. What you resist will persist. So one of the most important things is to begin to embrace your fear.
The impulse to dream has been beaten out of me through the experiences of life. Most people don't have dreams because life has beaten the living hell out of them. He said the impulse, just thinking about dreaming, has been canceled out because of the experiences that he had gone through. And so, and many of us are like that. And many of us are victims of distractions. There's so many distractions out here, and all type of strategies that keep you distracted, algorithms, all kinds of stuff. One of the things I'm doing is I had to put myself on a fast. I said, no. I'm not going to look at this phone. No, I'm not going to look. No, I'm not going to look at this phone. No. Most people look at their telephones. Studies show over 400 times a day. There are some kids. If you had a choice between your parents or your telephone, you had to get rid of one. Which would you want to get rid of? My parents? Oh my God. This telephone, it's an addiction. I have a friend, and Mike Sims, he stopped looking at television for a year, and he became a millionaire. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna just focus on reading and meditating and journaling and exercise and praying and being focused on my dream and working with people that fit in this category, that they are positive, they are purposeful. That means they have a purpose and they're going in the direction that I'm going. They are productive. They're working on their stuff and they're profitable. They're making some stuff happen. There's some time, these blessings that God has granted us, We are to make something happen. We've got to create something that shows that this era is the most profitable, most productive, and purpose-driven era in our history because of how we've been blessed, because what God has bestowed upon us. We got a fresh start. And when you have a fresh start, you want to take advantage of that, doing the right thing, being excited about it. I remember Dr. Otis Moss, who was a classmate of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He said, blind celebration and empty sentimentality will not keep the dream alive. What is your dream? I remember Dr. Johnny Coleman out of Chicago, and she asked, what is your dream? It said, when is it a man or woman dies? And the answer was, when their dreams die. Some people never had a dream. They think in terms of getting a job. Well, that's not an option now. This is an entrepreneur's era. You have to create your own job. And you got it like that, whether you recognize that or not. New industries are in you. You were born with greatness in you and dreams in you, the ability in you to do more than you can ever begin to imagine. How do you know these things? Because you've been given authority and dominion over everything on the face of the earth. I got something to back me up with that. Is that right? Yes, the word of God. He doesn't lie. You got it like that. Yeah. That's something. Yeah. I've got to decide to get excited about that. Somebody called me, are you watching the playoff? Watching somebody live their dreams? No, I know playoff what? Excuse me? Are you serious? This is our time. This is your time. I want you to take the time and think about that and reflect on your life. And say, speak, Lord, if you don't know what you're supposed to do next. If you don't know how you're going to take advantage of this time. Say, speak, Lord. Thy servant heareth thee, and he will. He will. He will. Just get still. Go for a walk or go for a drive or just unplug the computer, to turn it off and turn your phone off and just get still and create an opening in your thoughts. Don't worry about anything. Just be open. Just ask, speak to me, talk to me. I got a fresh start. Tell me what to do. Lead me. Listen to your heart. Lead me. Where your heart is, there your treasure is also. You are blessed. Thank you, Lord. Lead me. You said you'll never leave me nor forsake me. I need you now. Lead me. Tell me what to do. If I knew what to do, I would not be in this place. Help me interrupt my thinking, hack my brain, and allow me to hear your untarnished and unpolluted guidance. Please, Lord. Please, Lord. Thank you, Father, for this time. We have a fresh start. Your people need to be reminded, including me. I'm in that number. I got up this morning saying, what will I say? I'm speaking to myself. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, and I'm sharing the conversation that you have put in me. We have a fresh start, a new beginning. There are people who have read history. We have a chance to write history. You have positioned us to do that. Oh, yes, you have. Yes. Thank you for this fresh start. Thank you for the courage to answer the call, the courage to be mindful that you're ordering our steps, the courage to call forth those things that be not as though they were, the courage to stand, the courage to have the faith and to know all is well. We give thanks. We give thanks. And so it is.
Everybody can transform a kind of inconvenience in a huge advantage.
Without any question, and it takes work. Now, there's no question that there are certain situations and structures around the world that don't allow people to dream. You know, I'm doing some work in South Africa right now, Johannesburg, and my first step is to help people to learn how to dream, because they were under apartheid, a form of enslavement that did not make dreaming possible. And there are other places around the world that are just like that right now. It's destroying people's dreams. And I think that's why we see such global upheaval in terms of many dictatorships, because people are becoming more enlightened. In 2007, Time magazine recognized the computer of the person of the year. And the reason it did, because it gives everyday people access to information that they never had before. And so now people with that access of information becoming more enlightened, and it's causing a great deal of disturbance with various types of governments around the world.
It's huge. My message in France, and I would like to spread that everywhere, it's you have a dream, it's possible, so take an action now. How can I help people to believe it's possible?
It's an ongoing process. The faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing. That's what my favorite book says. That you have to be an unreasonable person who's not looking at and judging the circumstances such as you see them. But you're calling forth those things that be not as though they were. And if you read the book called Change or Die by David Dushman,
I will do.
He said there's a person who is an unreasonable person who brings a message that it's possible and repeat that message. And there are people who hear that message who are able to relate to it and identify with it. And then they begin to move from and develop a whole approach to life with that new level of enlightenment, that as he speaks or she speaks, it begin to give people a vision of themselves beyond their circumstances and their mental conditioning, and challenges them to begin to embrace some habits that cause them to make some new choices that will help them to carve out and become the architect of their future, as opposed to becoming volunteer victims.
Great. You do a lot of speeches all around the world, and you are not the only speaker. A lot of speakers. So, according to you,
I'm a trainer. I'm known as a speaker, but my gifting is I started out as a trainer, teaching people how to live their dreams, teaching them how to use their voice and their story and leverage their knowledge to go from being local to being global. That's what my gifting is in.
So as a trainer, why there are some speaker or trainer who give only a kind of information, at the end you say, oh, it's interesting, and other speakers like you, according to me, and you feel something and you're not thinking about, oh, it's interesting, but I can do that. I want to take an action. I want to change something in my life. I don't know if it was interesting, but I will change something in my life. What are the differences?
Well, there are many speakers think that people are stuck because of lack of information. I always say, if information could change people, everybody would be skinny, rich, and happy. They don't need us to come in and speak. They can go online, they can Google the information. So information alone cannot create transformation. That in order to change human behavior, you have to create a significant emotional event. The materials that I provide, the training that I provide, is designed to impact a person's mind, their heart, and their spirit. And so the goal is to distract, dispute, and inspire, to interrupt their story. How people live their lives is a result of the story they believe about themselves. So when I'm training speakers, I teach them how to become a strategic, experiential storyteller. Be strategic
on how they use their story. You never make a point without a story, and you never tell a story without a point. And experiential, because Oliver Wendell Holmes said that once a man or woman's mind has been expanded with an idea, concept, or experience, it could never be satisfied to going back to where it was. And so when you take that approach to change how they think and what they feel, then you now have positioned yourself to begin to create a thirst. There's no saying you can take a horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. You create a thirst where they want to drink, where they want to change. And now you have, because of their encounter with you, you have now allowed yourself to be an instrument, as Mother Teresa would say, in the hand of God.
Yeah.
And now that person will begin to write a new chapter with their lives. So it's about how do we change the story that people believe about themselves that's been given to them by life, given to them by their circumstances. We learn between ages 0 and 5 what's available for us and what's not available for us. And based upon those experiences and the people around us in our environment, a word formulates in our mind. It's either yes or it's no. A word formulates in our heart. It's either yes or no. It formulates in our spirit, yes or no. And there's various things that can impact the formulation of that word and the conviction behind it and how we move our lives forward. My goal, if the word is no, is to interrupt that word and to change it to a very affirmative yes.
It's great. I love that. How to have a strong will? Because a lot of speakers are speaking about you have to have will, but how?
Will is, that's why I talk about the mind, the heart, and the spirit. The reason we celebrate Nelson Mandela is that for 26 years, they tried to control his mind. They were able to control his body. But most importantly, they couldn't break his spirit. And so that deep down resolve, that dimension that's available to all of us was explained to us in the book called Man's Search for Meaning, that Viktor Frankl, that there's a part of us that's always a part of us that's in our hands, that the irreducible essence of who you are, that either you say yes or no, not based upon the circumstances, not based upon the pressure that's applied, but based upon your conviction. Are you going to give this the power to take advantage of you? Are you going to turn yourself over to this? We always have that choice. That's the greatest choice that human beings have. Am I going to give myself a pass to surrender, or am I going to stand up? I remember telling a story when I produced my first PBS special on public television of a man who came by a house and there were people on the porch talking. And there was a dog moaning and groaning. The guy was curious, and he went back and he asked the owner, "Why is this dog moaning and groaning?" And the owner said, "Because he's lying on a nail." The guy said, "Well, why won't he just get off?" He said, "Because it's not hurting bad enough for him to get off. It's just hurting bad enough for him to moan and groan." And so what most people do in life, they have the power to change their circumstances. You are made in the likeness and image of God. You've been given authority and dominion over everything on the face of the earth. But most people would rather moan and groan about their situation, show up in their lives as volunteer victims, rather than become actively engaged in doing the work necessary to change their circumstances. It's been said there are two types of people, those who work and those who watch them. So you got to be willing to do your internal work so that you have the mental resiliency, and your external work finds something that you want to master that will allow you to move yourself forward.
Wow. So we have to, the first step is to find what we want to master.
Why are you here? What's your reason for being? Why do you get up in the morning? Most people don't have a clue. Pay the bills, to keep a roof over your head. I think we have to reflect on, who am I? Why am I here? What drives me? If I died today, what 3 words would I want said about me if I died today? You know, what is it that defines me? You know, and how do I define myself? Most people allow their circumstances to define them, as opposed to defining themselves and how they're going to show up in life. And so my mission is to help people to connect with the power they have within, their greatness. When you're pursuing your greatness, you don't know what your limits are, so you act like you don't have any. And when you live from that place, you can now be able to make a greater contribution and make a greater impact with your life because of the fact that you see yourself in a larger context. One of the principles, there are 9 principles that we teach of greatness.
Yeah.
The first one is each of us can achieve far beyond our horizons and in avenues of life we have never explored. Well, most people settle in and accept things in life as it has been given to them, as opposed to rising above that, working to create something that they can feel good about.
It's the first principle.
Yes.
What are the next?
The next one is we must take responsibility for our actions and our reactions.
Yeah.
When you look at your circumstances, you know, George Bernard Shaw said, the people look for the things that they want in life, and if they can't find them, they create them. And so when we look at ourselves, it's about doing that. It's about taking ownership for your stuff, for your life. And one of the things I emphasize, that changing is not easy. That changing your life, changing habits, reinventing yourself, picking yourself up after life has knocked you flat on your back. I've got to say, when life knocked you down, try and land on your back, because if you can look up, you could get up. Well, that sounds cute, but that's not easy. When I was diagnosed with prostate cancer 17 years ago, that first time that happened, I said, hey, I can handle this. Then when it came back a year later, last year, 17 years later, and this time, it metastasized to 7 areas of my body and ate 40% of my T1 vertebrae. Now the stakes are higher. It's this life saying, okay, Mr. Motivator, you beat cancer the first time. What you gonna do now? You know, I started laughing. When the doctor told me, he said, why are you laughing? Are you in denial? I said, no. I said, I feel like Mother Teresa. He said, what do you mean? She said, Lord, I know you know how much I can bear. I just wish you to have so much confidence in me. I said, the stakes are higher. So I've got to dig in and got to fight more, because at the end of the day, life is a fight for territory. And once you stop fighting for what you want, what you don't want will automatically take over. And so it's a fight, it's a challenge in life every day. And what we have to do is embrace it. What we have to do is see it as a project to be worked on. I read something once that I live by. It said, in life, you will always be faced with a series of God-ordained opportunities, brilliantly disguised as problems and challenges. And so I see even cancer as a gift, as a God-ordained opportunity.
It is a kind of test for you to improve
It's a
yourself.
test, right? No test, no testimony. Yes.
Wow.
And so you have to be willing to step up and handle it. Anybody can have faith, David. If the bills are paid, if they have their health, the marriage is working out fine, the children acting like they have good sense, they have a lot of money in the bank, a lot
Everything
of
is perfect.
investment. Anybody can have faith under those circumstances. The true challenge of faith is when life knocks on the door. The true challenge when you lose your health, or something happens to someone you care about, or you lose your wealth, or some tragedy happens to you. All of us over the next year will experience at least 3 tragedies. We will experience it personally or someone we care about. Charles Udall said in life, he said, things may happen around you and things may happen to you, but the only things that really count are the things that happen in you. And that's where, that's our domain. That's where we have the control.
Yeah, we choose the answer.
Yes, we did too, and we choose how we're going to respond to this. Will I allow this to get the best of me? Will I allow this to stop me? Am I going to surrender to this? Will I give myself a pass? Will I wimp out on myself? That's always a choice.
I love that. In the speech, just before you said a sentence that I love, can you repeat it about the fact that when it's hard?
If you do what is easy.
Yeah, I love that.
You know, giving yourself a pass, giving yourself permission to stop. If you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, your life will be easy. I didn't do what I'm doing now for 14 years because it was hard to make the radical change in my approach, my dress, my learning the language of corporate America, gaining access, developing myself an intellectual resource where corporations would reach over people with years of experience, PhDs and MBAs, and I have no experience and no credentials, and be able to compete with them. It was hard, but we can do hard. All of us have moments in our lives when things have been thrust upon us and we had to do hard. So if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, your life will be easy. And so don't give yourself a pass. Don't run away from hard because you can do hard. And through that, you discover a part of yourself that you would not know otherwise.
Yeah, you are building your power when you have challenges and when it's hard.
Yes, those things only happen through growth experiences, through challenges. If you go to the gym to work out and you don't feel any discomfort the next day, here's what we know. You haven't done anything. And so you got to challenge yourself.
Yeah.
And you're going to get hurt. You know, Viktor Frankl calls it unavoidable suffering. Life is full of pain and disappointment. It's a part of the process.
And we are proud of ourselves when we overcome something.
When we overcome things, we discover things about ourselves. No tests, no testimony. No guts, no glory.
Yeah.
And I was doing a broadcast once, and a guy was coming up, and he had crutches. He was coming up to be interviewed by me, and he missed a step, and he fell. It was a very embarrassing moment. And I went down to help him get up, and he said, "Don't feel sorry for me or be embarrassed." He said, "It goes with being a paraplegic. I fall all the time." And so we fall all the time in life. We make mistakes all the time in life.
Yeah.
You know, there's no life without mistakes. Anything that's worth doing is worth doing badly. It's worth doing right if you know how to do it. But if you don't know how to do it, it's worth doing badly until you get it right. All of us are going to fall on some tough times. 8 out of 10 millionaires have had to file bankruptcy. It's a part of the process. We go up and go down. And we learn things during the tough times. That's where we really learn things. That's where we begin to discover things about ourselves. Adversity introduces you to yourself, that are part of yourself that you would never know otherwise when things are going real good for you. And so what we have to help people to understand is to maintain a spirit of optimism in spite of their circumstances, to give them hope. Why? Because when there's hope in the future, that gives you power in the present. So my goal is training 100,000 voices of hope who will do 3 things. Help give people hope. That's number 1. Number 2, teach them methods that will help them to develop the desire to reinvent themselves so that they are not replaced by an app or outsourcing, because this is a time where you have to continuously reinvent yourself to stay ahead of technology and cheap labor around the world. That's number 2. Continuing to work on yourself and growing and developing. And the third thing is to build communities, collaborative, achievement-driven cultures, supportive cultures that'll help you to get to the next level. Have a group we call ourselves Cancer Conquerors. And so one goose can fly 75% further in formation with other geese than it could ever fly by itself. So if you got 100,000 voices giving people hope, that's number 1. Number 2, encouraging them to develop their capacity, their skill set. There's no shortage of opportunity. There's a shortage of capacity to take advantage of the opportunities that are available in the global economy. And encouraging people to create communities of collaborative, achievement-driven, supportive relationships. We can accomplish anything.
And how can the people and me can contribute to these dreams?
They can email me at yes@lesbrown.com. yes@lesbrown.com, and we'll be set up within a few weeks and send them out some information. But also in the meantime, what we will do is send them a video that as they watch this, they'll see the message that I'm bringing and a format. We're going to be teaching them the 7 principles of storytelling so that they can learn how to influence and impact and change lives, one-on-one, small groups, or in large groups.
Yeah. So with 100,000 voices, you can make a big difference in this world.
Absolutely, yes. That's the goal, and we want 100,000 voices outside of politics and outside of religion, both of which polarize and divide people. Just everyday people. I'm not an educated guy. If both my parents came in here right now, I would not know either one of them. I'm adopted. I don't have any credentials. I'm just an average person, and who I have a desire to make a difference with my life, to live a life of significance, and to live a meaningful life, and to help others who have a desire to do the same thing. When I think about the three pillars of something that would be your anchor, a foundation to drive you into the future, to live a big dream, to live a big life, a mindset, what you think about, you bring about. You know, as a man thinketh, so is he. Dr. Carter G. Woodson said that if you can determine what a man shall think, you never have to concern yourself with what he will do. He said, if you can make a man feel inferior, you never have to compel him to seek an inferior status, for he will seek it himself. And if you can make a man feel justly an outcast, you never have to order him to go to the back door. He'll go without being told. If there's no door, his very nature will demand one. And I think that in many cases, governments and religious institutions have really unwittingly crushed the dreams and aspirations and the visions that people had of themselves. Not all, but a lot of them. And I think it's incumbent upon the individual to take responsibility, to develop yourself, to expand your mind, your vision, to seek out experiences. You know, Helen Keller said life should be a daring adventure, it's boring. And start to dream. What do you want? What do you really want for your life? I remember going to Auschwitz and walking down the halls in the Nazi German concentration camps and seeing the pictures of men and women who had dreams. And these people were exterminated. And one of the things that I heard in my mind when I reflected on a book written by Viktor Frankl, who was there, he said, if you know the why for living, you can endure almost anyhow. He talked about the people who were able to survive the inexpressible cruelties of Nazism, those who either believed in God or had someone that they loved that they were determined to see, or some cause bigger than themselves. And in my case, my goal was to buy my mother a home. That was my big dream. And that caused me to read things and to listen to things, to fuel my imagination. And then to develop my skills to becoming a voice of influence. And the other thing that's important is creating a community of collaborative, achievement-driven, supportive relationships. And it started with a man, Mr. Washington, who said, a high school teacher, someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. It could start with one person, and then it goes from there. I started associating with people who were doing what I wanted to do. I joined a multi-level marketing group called Best Line Products. When I heard the voice of a guy that when he spoke, it seemed like he was talking to me. I was in a hotel at a convention and Bill Bailey spoke and he was selling this dream. I didn't even know the products, but I wanted to be a part of it. And what I found, and one of the great things about multi-level marketing, is that it puts you in a community of other like-minded people. I think that's the value and the power of associations of different kinds. Associating with people who share your values, associating with people, like-minded people who have dreams, who have goals that they're working on, and being in that community. Studies indicate that one goose can fly 40% further in formation with other geese than can ever fly by itself. In fact, I'm thinking about a scientific study where they exposed some rats to electronic shock, and after they increased it, it killed them instantly. But then they put these rats in groupings with other sharks, with other rats. And then what happened was that they continued to increase the shocks of these rats, and they increased it over 10 times more. And it took far more to kill them than what it took with just one. And so there's something about being in a community of people who share your dream, who hold you accountable, who challenge you, who call you out, who can see what you can't see that you have within you, and inspire you to step up. Ebony Magazine, the late John H. Johnson, who started that with a $500 loan from his mother. And he said something in his book called Making It Against All Odds. There's no defense against an excellence that meets a pressing public need. And I suggest to you, one, work on yourself. To me, I think there are 3 pillars of what's required in order to carve out your place in this global economy. There are many steps, but there are 3 that I think it's indispensable. One is working on your mind. Be ye not conformed to this world, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The second is of having a mindset and willing to discipline yourself to make the sacrifice to engage in ongoing self-study for self-growth and development, developing your communication skills. I can hear Mr. Washington now say, Mr. Brown, develop your communication skills, because once you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are. Nelson Mandela said, if you speak from your mind, you speak in a language that a man can understand. But when you speak from your heart, you speak in his language. And so my goal in teaching people how to create mass appeal, how to change lives, that you have to change yourself. It starts with you. And then you begin to see from your experience how you can begin to impact and influence others and be a voice of change. And that ability really will allow you to carve out a place for yourself in the marketplace. And the methods and the techniques, the simplicity of how you language what you say. Einstein said that genius is the capacity to take the complicated and make it simple. And so when you are creating change and mass appeal, keeping it simple, but being the message that you bring, and loving it, and standing in your power, and realize that you're here for a reason. I believe to make a difference. I believe to do a great work. I believe to live a life, as Jim Rohn said, when you live your life, he said, your life can be either an example or it's a warning of what not to do, or an example of what to do and what's possible. 85% of them reach their goals because of their attitude, 15% because of their aptitude. Now, to me, that was big, because I was in special education. I was labeled educable mentally retarded. So I said, whoa, that means I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. That if I have a winner's attitude, that I've got a shot, that I could make it, that I don't have to live a life of being average. I wanted to live a life of meaning, of purpose. Being adopted, I wanted to do something for my mother. And so by listening to motivational messages and reading on a regular basis, it really taught me the value of using your time to work on yourself, to develop yourself, to really restructure your belief system for what was possible for you. It really expanded my vision of myself. And so to me, that's what it means about mass appeal, because I was working on myself. Then I started sharing it with others, and I noticed a difference in them. And I shared with them the things that I was doing because they saw the difference in me. And it's been said that a career is something you love so much you do it for nothing, but you do it so well that people will pay you to do it. So as I talked with and shared with my friends what I was doing and what was possible for them, I eventually evolved into this life of where I am. And as a result, I carved out a market for myself. And because this is my passion, this is what I've spent the majority of my life doing, I've developed a level of expertise, a level of strength and power and reputation in this area that created a demand for myself. To me, one of the most important things and the first step in changing lives is to have a program for yourself. When I started on this path, that was what my goal was to change me. Given my circumstances, I think that, psychologists say that we create a mental blueprint between the ages of 1 and 5, that between that time, we determine what's available for us and what's not available for us.
And so, given my circumstances, being born in an abandoned building on a floor in a poor section of Miami, Florida, I became interested in a path of developing myself. I remember shining the shoes of Mr. Sidursky, this man that my mother worked for, very wealthy, on Miami Beach. She cleaned his home and she cooked for the family and kept the children. And he listened to motivational messages unbeknownst to me. That was programming my mind, and it created a thirst within me to get on this path. I remember listening to Earl Nightingale, who said, "You don't get in life what you want, you get in life what you are." And so to me, reading became an out. It became a tool that I used to develop myself. And not just reading for enjoyment, but reading for personal growth, reading to look at those things that I read and to apply them in my lives. And I would read sometimes at night from 60, 100 pages a night, sometimes a whole book. And then I would underline the book and I would think about them, I would memorize them, and then I would apply them. I would try them out. Because one of the things he said, they did a study of some top achievers and leaders around the world, over 3,000, to find out what was the common denominator among them that enabled them to reach their goals.